Aha.
What's going on, brother?
What's up, buddy?
Fuck,
How you
man.
doing?
I'm doing good. You know how good it is to see you, man? I don't think you do.
How you been, man?
Fuck, man. How much time do you have?
Uh, I got
Oh,
all night,
man.
man.
That is the question. Why is my camera being fucking gay right now? Okay.
Well, I don't know what has sexuality, but whatever.
Shut up. Are you all PC now? Is that what
Oh,
it is?
fuck, you're crazy. You're fucking crazy. I love
uh,
making jokes, dude.
And just now, again, I have to say, not only am I jealous of your hat earlier, but that mug that you just picked up, that's pretty
Oh,
fucking gangster too.
so check this. I don't know if you can see it. I got my Mjolnir on one side, and this I got for all my guys in my wedding. It's all engraved on the other side.
That's gangster as shit, dude. That's really
Cool.
cool.
It's the coolest wedding gift I've seen go around so far. Not just because it's mine, but it's a fucking ale horn, you know?
I actually think, wow, it is a. I'm actually attending a wedding, I think, in May, and the fucking groom let the cat out of the bag like an asshole and told me what the fucking the presents were going to be, and they were fucking cool ass horn mugs like that.
You
And
can't go wrong there, dude. I've had this. I got married a year and a half ago, and I thought it was gonna like fall apart by now because it's like natural and whatnot. But it's got a beer in it every night, and it's holding together. You know.
yeah, man, I had one a while back, and that bitch was fucking gangster, man. That thing held up a lot. It did leak at first a little bit, but I mean, it was like
Yeah.
wood glue. You know what I mean? And
Like
that was it.
later on here, I'll give you a little walk through this man cave I got here. I got some cool horns hanging up with my axes.
Are you making? So are you still making axes and shit, or are those ones from
Uh,
Iraq?
these one I had this one made for me because a buddy of mine has a makeshift forge, and he's
Oh,
going to start showing me how to do the actual forging
what?
instead of just cutting metal. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Ah, so
So
jealous,
trying to
dog.
get it, dabble in a little forgery here.
You know what, man? You know how much that fits you though? Like, you know how well that just fucking completely 100% is completely part of your character?
Oh
That doesn't
yeah.
surprise me at
Well, dude,
all.
I realized like one, it's interesting to me, and I like swords and axes and whatnot, but like I got kind of good at it, so I figure why not keep doing shit like that.
I'll tell you what, man. I have long been waiting to start a real sword collection, like really, really, because you know how much of a fucking nerd I am, dog. Like,
Oh yeah.
I mean, I can't wait. Whenever we get the fuck out of here, my fiance Sarah, she retires from the Navy next year, so God willing, we'll be out of California by 2020. You know,
Good,
um,
perfect timing.
yeah. And it's as soon as we get fucking God willing out of here and we get to our home wherever that's going to be for the next foreseeable future, I really want to fuck like I I tell people my nerd level is so bad. If I had the money to logically spend on like old armor and weapons and shit like that, I would totally go do like Renaissance fairs and like fucking live action all that LARP shit. I would
Oh hell yeah.
fucking totally do that, dude.
They got the medieval MMA fighters now, dude. You seen that shit?
Yes.
That's what everybody's trying to get me to start a league here, dude, because they know I'd have half the shit anyways.
Dog, if you did that, I guarantee you would probably fucking just like the demand would probably skyrocket right away, man. I bet you there is a high demand, especially up in New York, dog. I bet you it would
Oh
be
yeah,
fucking a high
and where I
demand.
live, like you know, not necessarily country, but it's out. It's not New York City by any means,
Hmm.
and there's a ton of good old boys up this way.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny, man. And I would, dude, if you should do that, man. You really fucking should. You should pursue that for real.
Well, one thing at a time. I'm gonna try to learn how to make some of this stuff first. Maybe save myself a buck or two.
Well, fuck, man. So you have two kids now, yeah?
Yep, I got a son named Liam, and my daughter. Her name is Keiko.
Cake. Where does that? Liam's a great name, by the way. And Keiko, what is that? Where is
Thank
that
you.
from?
Keiko is a very old traditional Japanese name for like baby girls. My wife, she's half Japanese, so her grandmother they called Keiko. That was like her nickname. And then when she came here after World War II, Japanese names weren't really that popular, so everyone called her Kay. So she was Grandma Kay. So we used Keiko Rose, and Rose is my grandmother's middle her name as her middle name. So we used our grandmother's name to create her name.
That well, one, that's so cool that the missus is half Japanese. You know, the samurai culture and the code of the shogun and everything is so
Oh
gangster as
yeah.
fuck to me. I love it so much, and that's just so cool that you have an actual family tie, to like that culture. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely. The warrior culture in general, like we could go on and on about it, but like especially in America, it's kind of a dying breed. And one of the things I'm like constantly trying to instill into my kids is, like nothing's free. You got to fight for everything, whether it's work hard, whether it's put your time in, whether it's actual fighting, whatever it is. My kids are gonna be squared away when it comes to taking care of business. You know what I mean? So I think that kind of heritage and that lineage is just another step to fulfilling that warrior culture.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, brother. And I wish that I think that people, when they hear conversations like this, especially from guys like us, they get, oh, well, not everyone's the fucking tough warrior and all that kind of shit, and
Yeah, but
and
the warrior, man, like the actual warrior fights a battle, dude. But everybody's got this little bit of inner warrior that makes them do the crazy shit to get through the day. Like you ain't gonna fucking make it in the world unless you're willing to fight a little bit.
yeah, no,
You and I know, man, it ain't fucking easy, dude.
well, I think that what people really do miss, that people can really get from the action, because people confuse warrior with someone who goes and fights. You know what I mean? Not everyone who goes and
Mhm.
kills somebody in a battle is a warrior. A warrior is a
Correct.
specific way of
Yep.
life. You know what I mean? There,
Hmm.
because an ISIS insurgent and a fucking British Royal Marine are two completely different things. One's a warrior and one's a fucking criminal and a thug and a murderer. You know what I
Yeah, yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
the lifestyle
Oh,
and the
without a
virtues.
doubt. And not only, yeah, and that's the difference is anybody can pull a trigger, dude. Like a
Exactly.
gangster on the street
Killing
can
doesn't
squeeze a
matter.
trigger.
Yeah.
But the application of what it takes to be mentally, courageous to get to the battle without fear, and not without fear like everybody has fear, but to overcome fear to do what they have to do. And you're not killing to like seek death. You're killing to protect the people behind you. You know what I mean? The guy next to you, the mission accomplishment, and all that stuff. There's a pretty cool dude, and I hate to like reference other blogs on your blog here, man,
No,
but there's
fuck
this
no.
one guy named there's a guy named Chris Jacchio, and he has
Chris
this thing
Jack.
called Tier One Viking Radio, and one of the segments he has is all about the warrior and the warrior culture, and he breaks the warrior culture down into like 13 steps. The warrior being the elite, the guy who's on the front line doing his job because he's trained really well to do it, and it breaks it down all the way to the guy who is of a warrior mindset but not a warrior, the guy in the gym who's a fucking beast but he
Mm.
hasn't gone to war, and everything in between, from the protectors to the providers to the teachers, because all of them have a sector of the warrior
Yep.
mindset.
That's it.
There's one guy who's the actual warrior, and that's the dude actually in the battlefield. Everybody else just has a little bit of that. But if we don't teach it
Warrior
to our
spirit.
kids, to our friends, yeah, you don't have that. If you don't pass it on, it's going to die. And we're going to have a bunch of pansies running around here wondering why we're speaking Arabic.
Well, and so one of the guys that I really love, one of my favorite authors, and don't like if you have anybody that you listen to, please bring him up, dog. I love it. Like Jocko Willink, he's a guy I literally just met him this past weekend. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And meeting him in person was an amazing fucking experience for me. And like, he has a book series of children's books called The Way of the Warrior Kid. He's got one and two,
Yep.
and it's the same thing, man. Like people hear words like warrior and they just fucking take it for granted and they immediately fucking associate that with everything gun culture and kit
Oh
war and
yeah,
all that
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of shit, and like you
But
said,
dude,
man.
that's bullshit though, because you know what, dude? What happens to the warrior when they're not in battle, man? They're still a human being, right? And like if you look at how that applied to every culture from, Rome to now, the warrior had its place. And the warrior used to be respected. Now it's kind of demonized, like, oh look, the guy who implements death. Well, he also protects life if you look at it the other way on the flip side of that coin. Because without that guy, you're speaking Arabic, and we're not having this conversation because there ain't no First Amendment in Arabic culture. So,
Yeah, man, well, and here's the thing with that, man. I truly believe the place that I'm at in my life right now, I don't give I truly believe everywhere mankind, the spectrum is those of us who are very good, those of us who are very bad. and then every single other person falls somewhere in between. And it doesn't matter
Correct.
what fucking color you are, what country you're
Yep.
from, what name you call God, or any of those things. There's universal truths and universal goods and universal evils. And it doesn't
Yep.
matter who you are, man, woman, black, white, it doesn't matter. If you embody those, that's what matters to me. I don't care what your beliefs are, but your principles of being a good human being, good to others,
Hmm.
good to your family. That's what fucking matters, to be honest and truthful and to speak the truth, regardless of what your fucking ideology is. Be truthful and honest and be good to
Yeah.
others, man. Simple fucking
Yeah.
things.
I've been speaking that up and down to people that I talk to. I have conversations from, friendly conversations, political
Yeah.
conversations, and I always tell people you got to be respectful and you got to be consistent. You don't have to like somebody to be respectful. Matter of fact,
Yes.
some of the like greatest enemies in the world, like
Have to
you have
raise
to have
respect.
respect for them because they're fierce as fuck, dude. These guys will go to crazy lengths to get their job done. I despise at all levels ISIS, but I respect their commitment to their crazy ideology because there ain't nobody in this fucking country willing to do that crazy
They
shit.
believe they're
And
going to go see their God, you
exactly,
know?
exactly. And the other thing is being consistent. Is I don't give a fuck if you're a dickhead, but be a dickhead to everybody. Don't pick and choose who you're going to be a dickhead to. At
Yeah.
least be consistent. You're going to go out there and be a good person. Be a good person to everybody. Don't just be a good person to the people that benefit you. Because
That's
if you
being
want to see the
dishonest.
true character, yeah, yeah. But if you want to see the true character of like an individual, you want to be a man. See what happens when there's nothing for him to benefit from and how he's acting then. Because guarantee you that'll show his true colors faster than any freaking paycheck.
No, man, you're right. You're right. And it's isn't it weird though, man? Like, so when do you think you really started hardcore solidifying these virtues in your character? Because I know we were not like this. Fucking rewind, damn, 10 years ago. You know that for I mean, and 10 years sounds like a short time, but it's not.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
mean,
you
that's
know what's
something
weird
that's
is I started this mentality a long time ago, but I think it really took my experiences in
you just
life
start living
to
it.
actually implement them. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And like by no means I'm not a fucking choir boy, and I ain't
No one's
the
perfect,
best
dog.
human being ever to live. But when it comes down time for me to do something to help other people, it's not like I'm sitting there waiting for a paycheck. If somebody needs help, you help them. You know. Last September, October frame, I went down to
So good to talk to you.
Florida, and it was crazy because they had a big hurricane down there and all this stuff.
Mhm.
And I'm sitting here and I'm waiting for like some people to be like, all right, man, let's get some shit down there. Let's do a bunch of stuff, blah, 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 blah. And then nothing. So I'm like, fuck it, I'll do it. So I got tens of thousands of dollars of stuff, 3 different trailers, a bunch of dudes to get trucks and trailers. And we drove down on our own dime. People donated a bunch of stuff, some gas cards, some food, some whatever, which was nice. I could go on thanking people for what they did,
Yeah.
but majority of what it was on me and my buddy, right? We went down there, you know, thanks here and there, someone patting you on the back when you dropped your stuff up. But dude, I don't give a shit. As long as I can do whatever I can do in the scope of my life to help other people. And I hope one day, God forbid that ever happens to me, some crazy retard from some other state's like, fuck it, I'll go do it and come help me out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I don't expect that, but I'm saying like I'd hope that somebody somewhere would have a similar idea and enough, set of nuts to get in their truck and drive wherever I am, and I need some help.
Preach.
You just kind of hope, you just hope it comes around. I'm not some freaking Buddhist here that believes in karma, but it's that kind of mentality. You know what I mean?
Whatever you call it, man.
Yeah,
Call
yeah,
it
yeah,
karma, call it positivity, call it the universe, whatever, man.
yeah,
Good
yeah, yeah,
things will come
definitely.
back around and bad things come back around, regardless. You
Yeah,
know what I
no,
mean?
no doubt, man.
You
And
know?
again, like I get like you got to do what you got to do to make ends meet, and sometimes that's not always like in everyone's best interest. But you try to make up for those kind of crazy things in like the long term by doing those good things. You know what I mean?
Well,
If you think of your life as like a plane, right? And sometimes you got to dip, and sometimes you got to soar. But as long as at the end you got enough peaks and valleys that equal each other out, in my opinion, that's what makes a good human being. Not trying to be perfect, because ain't nobody perfect, dude. There's never going to be anyone perfect. We're all fallible. We're human beings. We make stupid decisions. Some people make them more often than not, but whatever, dude. The fact is, if you're making an attempt to get more peaks than valleys, you're on the plus side of things.
no, man, you're absolutely right, man. You know what sucks though is for some reason that is such a hard concept to grasp for fucking people, man. And And I truly do
Because they don't
believe,
benefit from it. Everybody's looking to make a buck, you know?
yeah, the little one that you fall. Yeah, yeah. So the little one, well, excuse me, the older one, she don't give a shit. She has like zero fear, you know.
Yeah,
And of course, is my child, and I broke my first bones before I was even in kindergarten. So
I bet.
I live
How's your
every day,
bicep doing?
dude.
Yeah.
It's still, it's look
I
at
was
it,
just telling that story the other day, actually.
look at that
I
thing.
literally was just telling that story about a week ago.
Dude, you know what though, man? It really doesn't affect anything. You know what I mean? I mean,
Really?
I can't do chin ups for shit. You know, it's like fucking this, you know, but
Hey, that's better than I can do. I never could do them with two biceps, so.
well, I'm just saying, you know, I mean, it's as far as being able to defend myself and operate daily tasks and work out heavy, you know, I mean, it doesn't interrupt and it's not painful, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it doesn't fucking mean that, you know, it doesn't look, it fucking looks horrible. Look at that thing. Looks fucking just bleh, you
Like
know?
Popeye.
God. Anyway, but it's back to what we were talking about, man. I really wanted to ask you too, because that was one of the interesting things for me is through, you know, this path that I've been on in my life, man. Like you said, I feel like I have always had very strong virtues and very strong, you know, moral characteristics about me, but I was just doing
Yeah.
dumb shit. You know what I mean? I believed in all of it, but I was just completely selfish and I gave a fuck about drinking and women and fucking going crazy and all that shit. That's what I gave a fuck about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was doing all that dumb shit, you know. But then through life, getting out of the fucking Marine Corps and learning that humility and going through all my PTSD and all the other shit and sobriety and becoming a fucking parent and becoming a dependent and all these fucking things, man. And at the end of the day, you know, all the self-reflection and the humility that comes with all that shit really fucking, you know, it was such a weird realization being like, man, all these things that I believe in, if I literally just live them, life is so much more rewarding and happy and just fucking, you know, enjoyable and inspiring when you actually
Yeah.
fucking live those values that you profess, you know, of having honor and truth and, you know, and all that shit. You know what I mean?
You know what I think, especially, being young and dumb and Marine Corps fucking gung ho, is you don't have anything like you value things in a weird way. Like we value, being a ballsy dickhead that can win every fight or how much you can drink. That was our value, right?
Yeah.
And so when our values change, because I was talking to my dad the other day about like the actual value of things, of life, of friendship, of whatever. Anybody can be a millionaire if you just put your nose to it, but money ain't shit. I know dudes that are broke as a joke, and the reality is they're happier than some of these
That are
guys that are
happy as
sweating.
shit.
Weird, like, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And when I was talking about value, dude, it's you set your priorities, right? Like, so I make a decent wage, man, but I make just enough that my wife can stay home with our kids, and that's how much I make. I make enough because the fact is, if my wife can raise my kids, that means my family is self-taught. That means that we can teach our kids what we want to teach them, and we're not dependent on somebody else to do that. And that is the biggest value to me. My wife having everything she needs and not having to freaking go get 14 other jobs to make ends meet.
Preach.
That's the value. You know what I mean? So when we put value on thing, you actually have to make like this common sense like equation of whether or not the value is worth the risk or the reward. And a lot of people just say, okay, well, I want to be the biggest, toughest guy. I want to be able to drink. I want to have the fanciest car. Well, guess what? One day that car is going to rust. One day you're going to run out of beer. One day
And
you're
no
going to
one's
run out of
gonna give a
money. And what do
shit.
you got left? Zero.
And no one's
If you
gonna
don't
give a
have
fuck.
anything, no baseline, no family, no love, no actual value in your life, then all that shit's for nothing, man. You're gonna die a fucking broke ass man with a busted ass car.
Hmm. And when you live that kind of life, you attract a lot of people who also live that life. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Which brings you down that path faster than you were originally going.
exactly, man. And that's what's crazy, man. Because all the at my fucking lowest levels, you know what I mean? And it's not that I blame people. I fucking don't. I am completely 100% responsible for all the fucked up shit that I did to myself and to other people. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but you I, you need to go through that. You know what I mean? Like we needed to
Oh
go
yeah.
through the fucking darkest fucking, you know, just hit rock bottom and do the most fucked up shit because
Yeah.
I know what that is like firsthand experience to fucking be the biggest piece of shit. And when I say piece of shit, like,
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, man.
Like
Well,
you
I mean,
feel
like, so
bad
my
about yourself, kind of shit.
Yeah, dude. I mean, well, just the shit you
Yeah.
did, the people that I hurt, and the things that I
Yeah.
did were unforgivable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you can come back from that, when you can come out the other fucking end, and you have that firsthand perspective and that firsthand knowledge, and you can keep that memory of how fucked up you used to be, and you fucking have that fresh in your mind, that motivates me every fucking day to be the exact opposite of that guy that I used to fucking be. You know what I mean? And without that
I think.
experience of going through that, you don't have that drive now to be that fucking that
Yeah.
good of a person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think my experience might have been, like obviously different in the aspects of like things that I've gone through. But I got to say that like in the military, like my time in the Marine Corps, like was more taking care of people than it was actually getting into trouble because all of our retard friends were doing such dumb shit all the time that I spent most of my time bailing them out. And I think that the amount of work and the amount of effort that I put into getting these guys out of trouble in my head was kind of like, fuck that. I'm not doing this shit because ain't nobody going to bail me out. You know what I mean? And so like when I'm driving people to and from the bar, and I'm going to Main Side to pick their dumb ass up because PMO fucking dragged them out of their car, I'm thinking to myself, like, do I want to be this guy? Because some of our friends, man, made way dumber mistakes than you and I made. You know what I mean? And there's, you know what I mean? Like, God rest his soul, man. You right?
Yeah.
Like that when he first got fucking NJP'd for letting people drive his truck through the football field.
For fucking ever, man. Holy shit.
I know, man. But like I remember that night crystal clear because we went out in town and I had to knock the fuck out of and me and dragged completely unconscious back to base, and the PMO ripped us out of the car because they thought we were kidnapping the guy because he was unconscious. So, like, I think about shit like that. I'm dead serious. I love these guys to death, man. But some of the stuff that they did, I think, actually was the stuff that imprinted in my head. Like, I can't get to that level because coming back is freaking insane. Dog. And so when I got out of the military, dude, like, I hardly drank. Like, I drink now more than I ever drank when I was in the military because now I have time to relax and now I have more. Dude, I'm being dead serious. I was a DD. I was a DD every time we went out. For whoever I went with, because I was like, ain't nobody else going to DD, so we might as well have somebody with a little
I remember one specific time where you got, but this goes back to where I'm so glad that you're doing what you're doing because this is another instance where you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be walking right now and taking an air because of this story.
Yeah.
But the one time I do remember where you got in super duper trouble when you got threatened by the first sergeant that he was going to set up a mailbox in your ass and have fucking packages delivered.
First sergeant.
Yep.
And ironically enough, first sergeant he became the sergeant major for the reserve station in Syracuse.
No fucking way.
I'm dead fucking serious, dude. Wow. He became the sergeant major of the 4th LAR division out here.
Get the fuck out of here, man. That is.
I saw
wow.
Dude, I walked in to do like an IRR, the reserve thing. You got to like check in every year for your 4 years. And I saw his picture up on the wall. I'm like, you got to be shitting me, dude. And all that was because I got in trouble because I wouldn't rat somebody else out. That's what that whole thing was, dude.
Yeah, well, no, just what was it? We're going somewhere by way of Alabama. We're going to Wilmington by way of Alabama.
Yeah. Me and he's got in that freaking truck wreck, dude.
And you got thrown out of the truck.
No, he did. I roll all the way down the highway at like 120, dude. Yeah.
I thought both of you got fucking flung out of that truck. Man.
Oh, dude, yeah, freaking he went flying so far that like he skipped on the road. It was like throwing like a rock on the water, dude. It barely touched, and he went into the ditch. He's another one you got to catch up with, man. You want to talk about stories, dude. That freaking dude, he is a Army helicopter pilot now, and he's a sheriff for some sheriff department in Alabama now. And actually in Florida, I was trying to meet up with him. He was on special duty doing a security detail at a sporting goods store that they were trying to rob the freaking guns from. Like gangsters were trying to rob this sporting goods store, and they had like straight gunfights in the parking lot of Walmart. That was out. It was actually in Liberty City where they did the Grand Theft Auto game. He literally was sitting. I'll show you pictures, dude. He has a flak jacket on top of a freaking shopping cart, and he's sitting in a lawn chair behind it, dude. It's pretty funny.
That's actually pretty gangster.
That was just like a couple months ago. That's not Iraq. This was like Miami, Florida.
That's funny, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, fuck, dude. I remember I sucked the fart out of his ass in Iraq.
I've been trying to find that video, dude. Sent that to me a while ago. I can't find it. It was on my old computer. I was actually just looking for it. I was seeing if I could find it for this thing.
Dog, that was that last night when you just leave it in there, babe. Thank you.
Remember I broke that freaking that mop handle over his back.
Yeah. I mean, that was like the last night we were in Fallujah, right? And we were just doing all that dumb shit. Oh my god, man! Like we were passing each other
that
out.
Kind of shit. Now think about that, dude. Talk about being dumb, dude. Like what a dumb fucking shit we used to do, man.
Yeah. So I gotta remember one of my favorite memories of you. I'll never fucking forget it. I don't know why it's burned into my memory, but it is. And it was we were on ship, and I think it was I don't even think it was deployment, and it was fucking. And it was when you fucking grabbed that fool up and fucking just pinned him against the fucking wall. And you were like, I will fucking destroy you. Because you guys were fighting over like a rack or something.
He fucked me on Firewatch, dude.
Yeah, or some dumb shit, man.
He forgot to go down to Firewatch, man. It was on the first Libo port, and I lost my Libo because somebody was supposed to refuel the tracks, and I needed like an extra person down there, and he just forgot to go. And I find like 8 hours later, I went up to the freaking berthing and I just choke slammed that kid so hard, man.
I was laughing so fucking hard, dog. I was dying because it was so, because you'd stoned in there, a big broad-shouldered fucking self walking with your fucking walk. No one else ever in my life seen a walk like yours. And, and you get it and I will fucking destroy. And poor. He was like this big at the time. He's big now, but at the time he was like this big around. So he's just
Dude, I was stewing so long, man. I was like, when I find this son of a bitch, and I found out he was like dicking off. He took a shower. He was hanging out. I was so mad. I'm like,
I was dying, dog. That, and when beat the fuck out of just
dude, it's nothing about a big boy, dude. A big boy. That was a fucking hoss, and was like this little Mexican dude, all 80 pounds of him, man.
Yeah, well, was a little thug back in the day, dog.
I know, dude.
Where was he? Wasn't he from Austin?
San Antonio.
Yeah. He was a little banger back in the day, dog. He don't give a fuck.
Dude, hell yeah.
He'd never been
see you now, man?
Oh, is he enormous?
Oh, my dude, he's like pro bodybuilding and shit now. For the last I heard, I don't know if he still is, but I haven't talked to him in a couple of years.
And that's when I saw him years and years ago. Yeah, and he was like fucking Mr. Vermont or some shit like that.
Yeah, I saw some of his competition stuff. He's a big boy, man.
Still, he's never going to get over when beat the fuck out in like a space this big. It was in between the wall lockers and the rack. And it was just
and it was like 40 people watching him, too.
Just got fucking wrecked.
Remember everybody was fucking rolling dice in the corner, and the fucking Master at Arms comes upstairs, and he's just watching, and he made everybody write apology letters to the captain of the ship.
Dog, so the fact that we weren't even in a berthing, that was a casualty overload.
Yeah, it was surge berthing for casualties, dude.
Yeah. And then remember how fucking balls deep we got all sucked, the whole berthing got sucked into Lost, and we would all fucking...
Oh, my God. Dude, we watched every episode in like a week, dude.
Oh, my gosh, man.
Want to do something even crazier, man, is remember there was that engineer that was with us?
The redhead kid.
From New York City?
Yeah.
The redheaded kid, yeah. And there was 2 other engineers that were on the ship somewhere else. They had that big D7 down at the basement.
Yeah.
One of the other engineers is a fucking vet that goes to the behavioral health center here in Syracuse. Like, no shit, dude. We're sitting there talking one day, and
was it the big bald dude?
Yeah, he's a big dude, like huge.
Yeah, I think I never remember which one.
Well, we're sitting there talking, and I saw he had a Marine Corps lapel pin on. I was like, oh, man, Semper Fi, dude, cool, man. He's like, when were you in? I was like, I told him my dates. He's like, oh, no shit. So was I. What were you doing at this time? I go, well, my first deployment, I was on the 2-4 Mu. He's like, in 06? I was like, yeah. He's like, well, I spent half my time in the freaking, what was the small carrier there?
The Iwo Jima.
Iwo Jima, and he goes, I spent the other part of my time on the freaking Whidbey Island. And I just looked at him like, nah, fuck you, dude. You're kidding me, right? And he was one of the engineers that went over on the LCACs in freaking Beirut, dude.
Dude, we really... Do you realize that kind of a big deal that fucking was? And that's really kind of a big deal for
I didn't at the time, man. But yeah, nowadays, dude, I tell people about it. They're like, no way.
Well, that was a big fucking deal, man. Like,
yeah.
that was
huge. Like borderline like Israeli war #4, dude.
that was almost an intifada. Yeah, that was almost fucking, you know. But God, and I remember, man, like, I haven't thought about so many of these things in so long. But that birthing, man, and the group of guys that we had, we didn't fucking go into combat, but I wish we would have, because for as fucked up as we were, we had some pretty fucking good dudes, man. You know, for as fucked up as we were as a platoon, I mean, and we had some horrible leadership, but we had some great fucking leadership, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like at the time too, we didn't realize that we had like the 4 best sergeants in the battalion, like bar fucking none. Like we really did, you know?
Dude, and I'll tell you freaking man, like I swear by that dude, man. He's like, I catch up with him every once in a while on Facebook. He disappeared for a while, man.
How's he doing?
When he got out, man, he's doing great, man. He's got his son's like 10 now, dude.
I think the last time
he's living down in North Carolina. He's like a fucking dreadlock hippie now.
Is he
I swear to God, man.
Is he really?
Dude. Yeah.
Oh my God, that completely blows my mind, dude. Because he was so classy and fancy and old New York, and you know, all fucking shined up and spiffy.
Dude, I haven't talked to him like face to face. I just message him, and I'm just like going through his Facebook. Yeah. And I saw him with long hair, and I'm like, no fucking way, dude. No way.
Speaking of long hair, you had great hair.
Yeah. Oh,
why
dude,
did you cut it?
Well, 4 years ago when I first cut my hair, I cut it for St. Baldrick's Day. And I like donate it, and they do a big child. You never heard of St. Baldrick's Day?
No.
They do this. Well, in New York, they do this thing. It's the weekend before or after St. Patrick's Day, where everybody goes to an Irish bar and they get their hair cut, and they have to raise money for childhood cancer research. And you're on teams, and my team always is like the second or third biggest one in Central New York. And so I cut my hair. I had like 20-something inches of hair, man. It was freaking crazy long.
You had great hair.
And then and then I grew my hair back out after that, and I did it again 2 years later. I actually just cut my hair, I don't know, a week and a half ago. Just to, look, that middle stage where you look like a fucking scumbag.
Yeah.
I was like, I was struggling at it at work. So I looked like a freaking bag of shit. And I cut my hair just out of pure like aggravation. Yeah. And now my son, who I let grow his hair out, he's like, Dad, I want to cut my hair. I'm like, whatever you want to do, man. I don't care.
My son Gabriel, man, his hair he looks like a little fucking if you could make a baby
Tarzan, dude.
Well, if you could make a baby that like was supposed to be born like a little surfer boy, he's got like these blue brown eyes, brown around the iris and then blue around that, and then he's got this curly, long, cool, thick blonde hair, and
does your old lady have blonde hair?
Her father is blonde hair, blue eyes. I have a full-blood aunt who's blonde hair, blue eyes. I have a cousin who's blonde hair, blue. It's in the family. So baby number 3 is due next month. We're hoping that one's a ginger. So our daughter's a brunette, our son's a blonde, and I want a little redhead daughter. We don't know what number 3 is yet either. I'm hoping it's a girl, and I'm hoping it's a little fucking ginger baby. I really do.
Cool. Yeah, I got a lot of redheads in my family. Even if you can see the little goatee comes in pretty red.
Yeah. Aren't you a little bit of a strawberry?
Dude, my hair is every color, man. I got blonde, black, brown, a little bit of red in my goatee. So I'm like, you got a pretty good shot of coming out whatever.
This is all red.
Well, this is all I can grow here, man. This is my 5-year period here.
Dude, so I'm pretty sure you probably watch the show, but Vikings is probably, I'm prepared to say, my favorite show. And
you know what? I'm behind this season because I watched the first couple episodes, and I lost interest without Ragnar. I got to tell you, man. And I like the boys. I think it's cool, but he was my man, dude.
Dog, I don't think he's dead. First of all, I don't think he's dead. Second of all, it's still dude, Bjorn.
Yo, Bjorn's freaking awesome.
Dog, and Lagatha get gangster.
Well, I got to tell you, if you like Vikings and you got Netflix, you got to check
Lost
Frontier.
Kingdom.
No, Frontier.
Oh,
It's
I
all
watched. Yeah, I watched season 1.
dude. It's like an American version of the, like, not even Vikings, but just like it's the American Viking. It's this dude from Canada who's like part Irish, part Native, and he's fighting British people, and then it's freaking nuts, dude. And it's like the North American version of that.
I hate what's his name, the captain or the lieutenant. You know, who's got the real bad accent. That fucking guy. I hate his voice, dog. It's so fucking over the top. That English accent that he fucking does is
it's
ridiculous.
Like a Cornwall accent or something.
It is so over the top, man. But he's the only guy I didn't like in that show, man. Fucking what's the main
Harper?
Yeah, but what's his actor the actor's name? Momoa. Jason Momoa.
Jason Momoa. Yeah.
He's
a big boy, dude. He's a big boy. I watched, he had an interview with Jimmy Fallon, and they did this game where every time they were wrong, they got to throw a cup of water at each other. And finally, he had this big top hat, and he filled his top hat full of water and put it on top of Jimmy Kimmel's head. And he's like, I think I won. And he stands over top of him, and Jimmy Kimmel looks like this big, dude.
Dude, so Momoa, I was so upset because the first time I saw him was in Game of Thrones when he was Khal Drogo, you know what I mean? Yep. And in season 1, you lose the two best characters. You lose fucking Ned Stark and Drogo, and I was like, dude, that was his perfect role. That was his fucking best role, and it was his first fucking one that made him famous. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And because everything since then, I mean, yeah, he's good in Frontier, and he's good in this show called The Red Road. It was it was a Sundance or IFC show. I mean, it's a little slow and it drags, but he's good. His character's pretty cool, you know. But
speaking of characters, man, I got a chance to star in my first film last summer.
What?
Yeah, actually, my motorcycle club was like the good guys in this horror movie, and we like rescued like these people, and we did this like it's pretty cool, man. I it's a low budget freaking independent film, but
who cares? How did that happen? Details, man, details.
Well, where my clubhouse is, and I don't think you went to my old clubhouse when you came up here. We have a new clubhouse now, and behind our clubhouse is this like 100-year-old warehouse, and like just like folklore. Everybody talks about the area being haunted and stuff. So some guy from the area wanted to make a horror film about it being haunted, and he came up with some kind of cheesy, corny, low-budget horror movie. But then he found out there was a motorcycle club, in front of the warehouse, and he's like, I'm going to make you guys like our good dudes that are going to come in and save these, because I think like they're going to look at you and be like, oh, these fucking bad bikers being fucking scumbags. And then all of a sudden they find out that they're here to like help out, and come to find out like the story unfolds, and there's a couple crazy, plot twists to it that I don't know how they all work and how it'll look when it's finished. But we spent, 5 of us from my club were in the movie, and me and my sergeant at arms, we actually are like featured multiple times in the movie. And my sergeant at arms actually is the president in this make-believe motorcycle club, and he's got the most roles in all of it. But me and him have the most right now. So I got myself an IMDb account, and I'm on like, yeah, you look my name up, I'm in the movie. And then 2 years ago, I was an extra in one of Tom Berenger's movies. They were filming a motorcycle movie here, and we were all in it.
What is it?
So Tom Berenger was filming this motorcycle movie called American Bagger, and him and Keith David. You know Keith David?
I know the name.
The black dude from every movie ever.
Yeah. I know the name. I recognize
he's got the gap in his front teeth. You know what I'm talking about? Just Google it. You'll know who I'm talking about. Anyways, those two dudes are like going through a midlife crisis, decide they want to go to Sturgis, and they made Syracuse into a fake Sturgis. And we got to be in the last part before the credits start rolling. The other main character walks past me and a couple of my guys, looks at me and nods and gets on his bike, and the movie ends.
So I'm guessing the movie is Setish?
Setish, yeah, that's the horror movie.
Yeah, I just looked you up on your IMDb thing. You need to get a picture on that, dog. Get a fucking picture.
I know, I'm fucking famous, dude. Shit. I didn't know it was on there. Somebody told me like 2 days ago it was on there.
Dude, so to shift gears, it's this is just one of those conversations, another one of those conversations that I've had for fucking ever. But so with this podcast, I am pursuing a future in entrepreneurship. You know what I mean? And business
Right.
ownership and creating a company, and it's a big fucking idea, and I got it in my head, and there's a whole pitch, and it's an it. But anyway, it's just so weird, like when you're kind of pursuing a life in the public eye and you're doing
Yep.
things like reaching out on social media, looking out to fucking people on podcasts, trying to pay attention to how you want to fucking portray yourself and who is successful at doing what and all that shit. But it's a weird thing when having an IMDb fucking, account up there and having a movie and shit. Like, isn't that just strange to like when you, because especially being a
I'll
public
tell you,
person, it's weird.
in the last 6 months to a year, like the amount of opportunities that have kind of just presented themselves is insane, dude. And I don't know, maybe it's been longer than that, and I just am kind of oblivious to the whole thing, and it's just starting to catch up on me. Like, I didn't even know there was an IMDb account. Someone's like, yo, dude, I just saw your name pop up on this freaking website, and they sent me a link to it, and I go, holy no shit, how about that? And like some of the things I end up on the news for, man, like some of the, charity stuff that my club does, we end up, doing a quick, 2-second blurb here, 2-second blurb. Well, you Google my club or you Google my name. Like when that happened, I Googled my name to find out where that link was. And dude, the amount of stuff that's on there, I didn't realize how much public interaction that I've had. And I don't think I've even really tried. Like now that I'm kind of, I'm making a point to do more public stuff now because somewhat similar to what you're doing. I'm making a effort to be interactive with my community, and I found out that social media is the easiest and the freest way to do it. You can sit here and start a website if you want, but why? You have all this stuff available for free. Not only that, but like the opportunities for these movies, like these opportunities come up to people all the time, and a lot of people turn them down because they're scared. And I think the one thing I learned in the military, dude, is if an opportunity comes, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, if you don't take advantage of that opportunity, you're never going to know, and you only can regret not doing it. So I always joke around with some people because in the last few years, I've had some pretty strange and weird but positive opportunities. And they're like, how did you manage this,
Isn't it strange?
And I said, I go, somebody called me, and I said, yes, that's exactly what I, like, before you even finished your conversation, I'm like, what do you need me to do? Let's do this. For example, I got a random call. I was at a barbecue 3 summers ago. My aunt calls me and says, hey, yes or no? I said, what? She goes, I got a job for you, yes or no? I'm like, sure, what is it? She goes, some Australian Parliament members need you to drive them around the United States, and they're going to pay you. And I'm like, seriously? She's like, yeah, probably not a lot of money, but it'll be an interesting experience. I'm like, shit, I'll do it for free, but if you want to pay me, that's cool too. Dude, so I spent 12 days, 3 summers ago, driving these people around, and they were doing this like expedition about hydrofracking, and it's big up here in the Northeast. And they wanted to see the pros and the cons, and New York State's against it, and Pennsylvania is for it. So they were going back and forth from New York State to Pennsylvania, trying to talk to both sides of it. And I thought it was a pretty interesting thing. And I have nothing vested in hydrofracking, you know what I mean? I was just interested to hear. So they let me tag along to all their meetings, and they went to all these professional speakers, and they went to the people that own the land, and they went to the oil companies, and they went to this and that. And I got to hear all this stuff, and at the end of the day, I got a 10-day vacation that I got paid for, and I got the experience of meeting people that now when I go to Australia, whenever that is, I have their contact information. So now when I want to reach out to these people, I've got media outlets in Australia. I've got politicians in Australia. I have a university professor in Australia that said, I'll give you a place to stay. Come stay at my house. So like just doing one thing by saying yes before I even knew the whole story, bam, got me that opportunity.
Isn't it weird, man? Like, doesn't like when you reflect on especially compare yourself to who you fucking were back in the day, man. Like when we were young men, we were still young men. We're in our fucking 30s. You know what I mean? And like you're having realizations, dog. Like you're having life experiences and realizations and wisdom that takes people lifetimes to achieve. You know what I mean? Like the wisdom and perspective that you have in your mind and in your character, that you're now really fucking focusing on your life. It's people go through lifetimes and don't have what you have now. You know what I mean? Like you have a vision and perspective.
Held back by fear, dude. And the thing is, man, like, and I think this is where like the military gives you that, like, okay, you got to push through your fears mentality. Hey, dude, guess what? Say you say yes to something, you don't like it, knock it off, quit it, do something else, don't matter. But if you say no, you're just gonna regret that shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna sit there and be like, man, I wish I went through that door. I opened up that opportunity. You can regret all day, and that's gonna tear you apart a lot more than not liking something.
You lose the fear of failure when you realize that failure is a good thing
Failure's
because
the
it's
best
a
tool you
lesson.
can use,
It's a
dude.
lesson, dog. Yes.
It
Well,
is.
find out what doesn't work to find out what. Who said that? Benjamin Franklin
Dude,
or Einstein or Edison that said like I didn't
I
did
did it so
fail
many times wrong to learn how to do it right, or something
or
like that.
it was yeah I found out a thousand different ways how to not to make a light bulb or something like that.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, actually, Will Smith just did a freaking phenomenal podcast, video blog, whatever. And I'm not even a big Will Smith fan, but this dude was like, listen, he goes, failure and taking responsibility for your failure instead of blaming other people for your failure is the first step to success. Because the first time you blame somebody else, you lose opportunities to make the next level because you're burning those bridges. And dude, I don't even want to like paraphrase. If you get a chance to watch it, it's been all over Facebook and YouTube and all that stuff. It's a 2-minute clip, and it's super motivating because it's exactly what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You take responsibility for your failures and you use them as motivation.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to repeat that, right? So let's do something a little bit different. Let's change it up a notch and see what we can do to get to the next level. Use that failure as motivation, man.
So one of the guys, like I don't listen to Will Smith because I've seen him a lot. I disagree with him on a lot of things, but I love him as an actor. You know what I mean? I love his fucking movies. But you know, Gary Vaynerchuk, I don't know if you know who he is. I'm pretty sure you probably. Gary Vaynerchuk is
probably if I saw him. I'm bad with names. So.
He's huge on social media, and he's a big fucking motivational guy. He fucking huge entrepreneur. Anyway, but he does a lot of. Look him up. You'll fucking love him. Gary V. You know, because his name is Vaynerchuk, but Gary V. And he's gangster as shit. But anyway, he's one of the guys who really gave me the inspiration to do this pod. Like, it's not, I don't even think you can call this a pod. I don't know what the fuck it is, but whatever that you would describe what we're doing now. What he had said that really struck with me was, if you can create free content, if you're aspiring to whatever, create a business, build a company, whatever, and you can provide free content, if you're that fucking person who can really talk to people and reach out to people and communicate, and you can gain a following for free, and then by that following, you can connect yourself and network with people who can help you to build the things that you're trying to build and to fucking achieve the goals you're trying to achieve. If you can do that, that is such the prime way to do it in the world we live in today, with how all communication happens on social media. And if you can provide that free content and really gain that following, the world is fucking open to possibilities if you can rub elbows with those fucking people who occupy those positions that you're trying to get into, you know?
Not only that, but you have to get their attention, and we don't have the funding or the network right now to do that, but social media does it for you. And the other half is, like, let's say your following is X amount of people, but my following is another X amount of people. And now you have twice as many people watching the same thing. And the interaction between people in that connection, I think that, like, our ability to communicate has somewhat, technology's given us advantages and they've taken some away because we're so dependent on it now. So we have to utilize the tool in the most proper way, and we also have to apply it outside of this box. Right now we got this little circle here because this is a connection. It's not the actual circuits that are working, it's the connection that makes those circuits work. You actually have to do the legwork and the actual interaction outside of the social spectrum, if you will.
Well, because no one fucking matters.
Well, no, because we don't have communication skills. Because I can say whatever I want because we're not in front of each other. If I want to trash talk you all day, guess what? You and me, we're not fighting because you're in the other half of the country. But the fact is, if you can sit down and have this same conversation in person by utilizing some of the information you hear on this network or this platform, you can have good conversations with people outside of here and start building real networks, dude.
Well, it's happening everywhere. It's not so right now, like me and you, like being able to actually effectively communicate, which is, you know, conveying ideas and understanding the person you're communicating with, that is, we take that for granted. That's a gift, dog. That's a skill and a gift. You know what I mean? And we take that for granted. You know what I mean? Fucking people, because most people, I would say, don't have that fucking skill to really fucking communicate with people. You know what I mean? And on top of that, it's happening everywhere. So some of the guys I pay attention to a lot, Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro, are two of the guys I really
Ben
pay
Shapiro,
attention to.
dude. Ben Shapiro will like knock your socks off, even if you don't agree with him politically. Just his ability to put a sentence together to emphasize his point on spot, dude.
Dog, watch. So one of the best podcast episodes I've watched in a long time because of the significance of what they're talking about. It's do you know who Dave Rubin is?
Yep.
Dave Rubin does the Rubin Report, and he has an episode where it's Dave Rubin, Jordan Peterson, and Ben Shapiro. And
Jordan Peterson's another guy, man, who's spot on.
I'm reading his book right now, dog. I'm reading 12 Rules for Life, and that episode of
that's the one about being a man, right?
Yeah, it's successful life. How he kind of tries to take spirituality and science, and he tries to fucking mold it to be like, look, there's a structure of life regardless of whatever, it's integrity, honor, all that kind of shit. You know what I mean? But anyway. It's happening. Like these good guys are getting forced into these circles of other good guys because there's so many other fucking shithead bad guys everywhere. Like all the good guys are literally being forced into their own corners, into their own circles. You know what I mean? And it's not only happening in levels of like, you know, the real high levels of medium, but it's happening in the real world to us, literally right now. Like our lives have brought us to positions right now to have this conversation, just like it has with the guys I do the podcast with and everything. And it's all for a fucking reason, you know what I mean? If you pay attention to what's happening in the world and in the fucking country, but everywhere else, man, the future is going to be pretty fucking shitty. But at the same time, the future is going to be pretty fucking great because there's out of horrible situations, great things and great people come up out of that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's
I preach this every day to people, and one of the things, and it brings me back to Boy Scouts. You were asking me like when I first started like thinking about these type of virtues and stuff, and I was a Boy Scout when I was a kid, and I think about like all the times that like they give you the like virtues of being a Boy Scout, and now that you can apply those type of things, you know, to real life, and you actually see what they're talking about, because when you're a kid, you don't have the big picture, the experience to back up. You know, your dad tells you something, and it's just because he says so. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then you realize the fucking guy was right. You know what I mean? And you hate to admit it because there's so many times you're like, fuck, I had my foot trenched in the ground. I was ready to fight that fight, and he was right the whole time. Yeah, because his experience, or their experience, depending on who it is, actually brought them to that conclusion, whereas you're just hearing it for the first time. And I think what has happened with people like you and me and other people that are starting to develop this is we're realizing that with our experiences, good and bad, that this is what needs to happen because we can foresee negativity in the future. We can foresee that like there's you want to look at it economically, you want to look at it politically, you want to look at it internationally, whatever it is, whatever your spectrum of craziness is, all of it's on this really volatile plane right now. And if you're not doing anything to help curb your reaction to that, then you're going to fall behind that curve. And that's when I was talking about how I want to teach my kids and what I want to do to develop, you know, that sense, that warrior spirit in my kids. It's not because I give a shit. I'm going to be long dead when they have to deal with that. But they're going to have to deal with it whether I teach them or not. So I might as well teach them, because the reality is by the time they're having kids, if I don't teach them, their kids are going to have to deal with a whole new set of crazy.
And what's the thing that I try to communicate, especially to other guys and other vets that I talk to, is, you know, doing the fucking right thing for the right reasons and being a fucking man of integrity and truth is not being a Boy Scout and fucking, you know, all that. I curse I say fuck to my kids all the time. I smoke fucking weed. Well, like I said, I don't say smoking weed. I'm not by any means a stoner. It is medicinal in every aspect. But you know what I mean? It's not being our generation of good guys is tattooed gangster. This is our generation of good guys. We are the John Waynes of our fucking generation, man. For real. Like really.
I agree.
It's just the way
because
we are.
There's not a lot of men left, which is part of the problem with our society is there's not enough men left to deal with the problems, and we're throwing a bunch of immature boys at a problem that would take one man to fix. Now you need 5 boys to deal with. So there's too many chiefs and not enough Indians. Nobody's willing to step up to be the leader. Everyone wants to share the responsibility because they're scared of the responsibility or the fallback of making decisions.
I think it's every generation of men before us probably looked on the younger generation and said the same
without
thing.
a doubt, without a doubt.
And it's just the uniqueness of our specific circumstances. Like the problems we're facing, race, culture, government, war, these are not unique. You know, we've done, as mankind, that's why we're so good at telling what's going to come, because we know what's happened in the past. You know what I mean? But the circumstances.
We pay attention to that. That takes a skill set to see. Like, you have to have read a history book before you can say, hey, this happened. And the problem is, if those kids, or even people in our generation, because in retrospect, our generation's still kind of kids. You know, you look at the mentality.
We are kids. We're in 30s, dog.
No, but some of them act like they're 12, though. You know what I mean? Like, how many? Here's a great example. When I got out, it was a little bit before you, but when I got out, man, it was the same 4 years as the kids I went to high school were gone to college, right? I got out, got a job, got a house, did that whole thing. And then I ran into some of my buddies, man, from high school. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, living in my dad's basement. Like, that's some shit.
Yeah.
You went to college. You just spent $500,000 on school.
Yeah.
You're living in your fucking dad's basement?
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah.
Like, dude, I'm broke as shit. I'm barely making ends meet. I was bouncing at freaking strip clubs because I didn't have enough money to pay my bills, dude. And this dude went to school and got some super fancy piece of paper, and his mentality is, I'm going to move back into my dad's basement. That's the difference between men and the guys that can take care of the business and people that are just floating through the fucking mess because they're told it's okay. Society said this is acceptable, you know?
So going back to what we were talking, like, and this is a conversation I love having, but like I said, all the problems we have are not unique, but the circumstances are just unique. And what I truly do believe, and one of the things that I love specifically about our generation, like, even though it seems prehistoric, we were born right before the internet. You know what I mean? And we were fucking literally, that sounds like it's fucking ancient, but we were fucking born before the internet, and we grew up on the fucking birth of the internet, and we're fucking literally in our adulthood going through literally the technological revolution. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you pay attention to Elon Musk, but I pay attention to him a lot, dog. And like this past weekend at South by Southwest, he literally said that, he said, mark my words, artificial intelligence is a far greater threat to mankind than nuclear weapons. You know? And anyway, when I say that, I say that because when I think of the kids, when I think of our kids, you know, and the world that they're going to fucking grow up in 20 years, when we're in our 50s, what the fuck is the world going to look like due to technology? Where's technology?
We don't even know because it's happening so fast, dude.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Jordan Peterson was talking about how artificial intelligence is going to negatively impact, like, how society views morality. So, like, how do you give a moral value to something? Is it alive, and how do we justify quote unquote feelings?
Life. How do you justify life?
Yeah, but exactly, and that's what when I was talking about value a while ago, dude. If we can't set a value on life right now, like what's worth protecting, what's worth fighting for, what's worth, you know, creating. If we can't set that value right now, we're gonna have a hell of a time trying to set that value when you got computers that are way smarter than you telling us that we're the problem. Because in reality, we are.
So you know even if that's not the exact, so I completely believe that. So even if artificial intelligence and computers don't do that, say they don't fucking come to where they're like a malicious, we're smarter than humans. Even if that doesn't happen, medical technology is going to progress to where we can implant chips to fucking boost our fucking intelligence. People are already cutting off limbs that are fucking better to you know what I mean? So in 10 years, upgraded humans are going to like outnumber regular humans, and an upgraded human with upgraded intelligence is going to look at normal humans like, you're a fucking dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What about this though, man? We already have a world of overpopulation in most aspects, right? We got on this computer, Big Blue, I guess it's called, and Big Blue is one of these supercomputers that they're utilizing for medical analysis right now. And Big Blue right now, and this is without any future AI technology, has got like an 80 to 90% cancer diagnosis rate. The average oncologist will only be about 50 to 60% accurate. Now, when these computers, first of all, take all of our jobs, which they will eventually do because they're more productive and they don't cost health
Automated
insurance,
trucking.
automated everything. Once that happens, and then once they keep us alive forever and we become completely dependent on it, what do you do with the next group of people that are here if we're not dying? Do we just like live on top of them?
We
Like
live on
imagine
Mars, and we live
India
on the
without
moon.
death. Yeah, like
build
India is
space.
already overpopulated. Yeah, they're going to have to find someplace else to put people because the fact is, or there's going to have to be like regulated birth, like regulated population control, like China has, which is now you're going to put the government in charge of who can be born and who has to die. No, thank you very much.
Yeah, no,
that's not what I want.
I'm not living
because, dude, you know what? Once you live in an environment that's completely controlled by one entity, whether it's the government or some AI technology, you've eliminated options and you eliminated freedom.
Freedom's gone.
You have nothing
Free
left. Like,
will.
what are you doing at this point? Free will. No, a machine's going to tell you that you can have a baby, or will kill your baby if you try to have one without it.
Doesn't it just blow your fucking mind that what we're talking about is we are literally going to see these events unfold in our adult, not even in our senior lives, in our fucking prime 30s to 50s of our lives.
But that's what I'm saying about our kids, man. Like, what the fuck are they going to be facing, dude? I can't even fathom it. This is just stuff that we can project with, like, current events. What's happening 50 or 60 years from now?
Or what
that's
we don't
the crazy
know about.
thing.
Like, this is just the shit that we know about. This is just shit that we know.
We're only basing this off of technology that has even just a little fathom of, like, truth right now. But, like, we don't even know, like, the rate of turnover for technology. It used to be every 50 years technology would turn over, and then it was every 10 years.
Now it's just,
then it was every 5 years. Now it's every 6 months, dude. Technology doubles in a 6-month period of time that used to take 50 years.
Did you see what happened to Facebook recently when they turned on their AI computers when they try to figure out
that's trying to read people's things?
Well, no. What happened? They had an algorithm. Facebook had an algorithm, and they wanted to solve it. So they had these two AI fucking like supercomputers, and they turned them on and connected them to figure out this fucking algorithm. Okay. Within minutes, as the programmers are observing these computers talking and communicating and trying to figure out this algorithm, the computers realized that they were being observed by the programmers. The computers then made up their own shorthand language that that still to this day was ununderstandable by the programmers. And the computer started communicating in a shorthand that was ununderstandable to everybody else. And so they cut them off. And then they went, it's like, okay, so realize the significance of what just happened. These two computers.
Self-aware, dude.
They started talking, realized that they were being fucking listened to, said, hey, let's fucking come up with our own language so that we fucking can't be understood by these motherfuckers. And then they did it. and it's just, holy fuck, do you not understand the significance of what happened?
Well, even crazier than that. So Google is check this. Google started a data programming algorithm since the beginning of Google, and what it's been doing is more or less mapping human interaction since Google began it.
Yeah.
Since the beginning. So with like 1 billion searches a day, they're just adding to this computer program all this stuff. Now they're trying to create a program for these auto-driving cars, and the program is supposed to act and react as if a human is driving. So they actually have to inject psychological analysis of human behavior into the computer in order for these cars to react the way humans do. So, for instance, if you're going down a road, on one side of the road is an old lady, and on the other side of the road is a kid with a ball, and the ball goes in the road. Do I swerve to hit the kid or the old lady? Almost every single human will hit the old lady because they'll think, okay, this person's lived their whole life. The kid has their whole life ahead of them. Almost every person, I think it's like 90% do that. So they're trying to input human emotion in how we emotionally react to things into how these cars are going to drive. What happens when the car says, well, I don't want you in the car anymore. Or what happens when what happens when you go to not you, but someone's going to cheat on their wife, and the car says, "Hey, this is immoral. I'm bringing you back to your wife." What happens when you do something? Let's say you live in a community where pot's not legal, and you're smoking pot in your car, and it says, "Well, I'm going to bring you to the police department now." Now your
Dog.
car dictates your future.
What
Are you
happens when that
crazy?
car says, you know what? I don't want to drive you around anymore. I'm a living thing and I have rights and I
Exactly.
don't have to do
Yep.
this anymore. What
Yep.
happens when your fucking car says that to you? You know what I mean? And then what do you say? It's not living
And then you
at,
say no. You say
yeah.
no, and
What are
then
you
it
gonna do?
runs you over.
What are you
Yeah.
gonna do? You know, and that's gonna happen, dude. Like
Oh,
we
without
are
a doubt.
going
And
to
that's what I'm saying.
create.
If we don't define morality now, like what is life and how we value life, you're never, ever, ever going to be able to do that. And that's why, and again, people's personal opinions on abortion or whatnot is whatever it is. But if we can't even get this one, like agreed on what this is right or wrong or up or down, we're never going to agree on whether or not a car can have
Well,
feelings, dude.
I truly believe, man, like unfortunately, that's one thing about our generation that I think is going to be looked back on in hundreds of years from now in human history. I think abortion is going to be looked at like slavery is looked at today. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I think
Well,
that
look at like the early 20s and how scientists are trying to deal with mental illness, and they're like doing like lobotomies and stuff, and that was like torture,
remember
and that's going to be the
experiment
equivalent.
or exploratory surgery? People
Yeah.
used to get
Uh,
surgery. They used to cut you open to see what the fuck
just to
was going
see.
on in there. And then they
Yeah.
would sew you back up and say, oh, well, we didn't find anything. You
Well, yeah,
know?
be like, oh, you had an ingrown toenail. Sorry, man.
But I mean, abortion is just to me, I mean, I am pro life in every aspect of the, I mean, I believe that abortion is absolutely fucking murdering a child. I
Yep.
believe that women who get abortions are the victims. I believe that people that promote abortion are, if you truly believe that what's inside there is not a child, I think you're denying science. You know, if you're
Of
trying to say
course.
that it's not a baby, you know, that
Yeah,
it's not a
yeah,
life, you know, and I just, in 2016, this is one thing that breaks my heart, man, especially for the black community because I have so many people in
yeah.
my
Yep.
life that I love who are black. In 2016 in New York City, there were more black babies aborted than there were
Yep.
born.
But
And that
what people don't
abortion
realize
is
is
number
that
one killer of black people. That above
oh,
everything,
it,
violence, medical
it was
abortion.
designed. It was designed that way.
Yeah, by
Margaret
Margaret
Sanger,
Sanger and Planned Parenthood.
Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, wanted to
Eugenics.
create a population control and
Yes,
eugenics, which was
eugenics.
utilized by Adolf Hitler.
Yes,
Was
yes.
literally she had a book, and then he took the book and was like, "Oh, this ain't some bad shit. Let me try it on some
What was that
Jews."
called?
Like I forgot, but dude, she wrote an entire like
Yeah,
medical piece
yeah,
about how to control the population of like unwanted people in your community.
yeah.
She focused it on blacks, but he transitioned that same concept to the Jewish community,
Well, that,
and
you know what's
and that
happening today
really,
too, dude? It's
but they don't
people are
teach that.
aborting babies with Down syndrome. People are
Oh, I know.
promoting
Yeah, yeah,
aborting babies with Down,
yeah.
and that is fucking eugenics. That's Adolf Hitler. That is the
I
Nazi.
know.
That's the Third Reich.
It's a fourth Reich now because we're starting it all over again,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
But the problem is we have politicians and we have people that claim to be like politically in the know that don't even know who Margaret Sanger is. And when you hear, oh, Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, you're like, oh, round of applause. She must be somebody great. She's an evil cunt who probably is for if it wasn't for her, there would be hundreds of millions of more people in this country every single day.
Yeah.
And the fact is, the only people that are negatively impacted by this are poor, minority families, and they're the first ones to go walking through the door of Planned Parenthood because they try to manipulate it as if we're providing you a medical service due to the fact that you're poor or minority.
Well,
But they're not providing a service. They're not.
it's what kills me, man. Like, regardless of the details, what breaks my heart is that the people in those situations, man, the people actually who go get abortions and the communities and the families are the victims, man. And if you know fucking people who've had families of people who've had abortions and shit like that, the politics of it is the worst part because
Yeah.
real people are the victims. Families are the real victims. You know what I mean? And when people like us who are pro, like for me, who are pro life, I do not look down upon people who fucking have had abortions, women who've had abortions, or fucking people who really truly like believe that it's a women's rights issue. Like if I'm talking to a young female and she truly believes like abortion is a women's rights issue and has never been exposed to the ideas that it's life and you should cherish it and everything like that, I don't hold that at her fault. I don't blame her for that. Because if I'm trying to be pro-life and trying to tell people this is a living person, you should protect it with all costs, how is me fucking pointing the finger and saying you're horrible and you're evil, especially if I don't know what your circumstances are, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
You have no fucking idea the horrible circumstances that people fucking go through, and people like us like to point fingers, and it's the absolute wrong avenue to take, man. You should be embracing and compassionate and have empathy for people in the communities that are exposed to that, man. You know?
Well, I also think that this is where people like you and I have the ability to communicate in a more productive manner than others.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people become defensive when they hear something they disagree with.
Exactly.
You and I have the ability to mitigate those feelings and address them in a productive manner. So when I have these same conversations with people, which happen from time to time, I'm not judgmental about it. I'm not like, oh, you're a piece of shit for disagreeing.
Yes.
But on the same factor, I'd like to say, hey, since this is your immediate situation, let's talk about it. How is this affecting you? And what can I do to give you some more information to help you make a better decision? Because you know what? Just because that is a decision doesn't mean it is the best decision. And options are always better in numbers. One option is not an option. That's just a fact. If you have more than one option, you can analyze the decision. And I think that people that can communicate more properly can portray that information in a way that's understandable to digest, especially under like some stressful situations. I could never put myself in a circumstance because, one, we're guys. We don't understand what kind of emotional, hormonal craziness happens once you get pregnant. So we can't fathom that. But what I can tell you is I love my kids as much as any mom loves their kids. And I can tell you from the other side of having a kid, that yes, it's hard, it's expensive, they're a pain in the ass, and sometimes you're like, fuck, this is really more than I think I can handle. But every bit of that is worth it because you produced life in this world. It's not like, oh man, I grew a plant. That thing is yours, dude. You produced it. And when you look at it from that side, you know, like how many, especially our age, you know, talk to women our age, and how many are like, I'm never having kids. Dude, I'm not saying you should have kids. Some people shouldn't have kids. That's a fact.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, don't eliminate your options solely because you see on TV that kids are a pain in the ass. Focus on the things of like what you value. Like for me, I value my family. Like names, I value my name. I had to pass on my name because I'm the last one to carry my name. So that was a huge value in my thing. My son is going to carry on my legacy forever with my name. My daughter too, until she gets married. And I think that those type of things, when you set that value, and you have the way to articulate that so people can understand past their little, like, you know, their political blinders or whatever, they're right in front of them. Yeah, just say, hey, dude, let's step back for a second, have a conversation, because this dialogue will open up thought, man. And you might tell me something I didn't fucking know. Shit, that would be great, too, because I love it, because it helps me have this argument in the future.
Well,
and not argument, but conversation, you know?
What helped me out is when I go into a conversation where I'm actually trying to debate opinions and I literally go into a conversation with the mindset of, what can I learn from you? I want to learn more about you. I don't give a fuck about I do care about your political beliefs, but I care more about who you are as a person, because that's going to fucking help me out way more in this conversation. Because if you're truly a good individual who fucking cares about yourself, your family, and other people, and just being a genuinely decent human being, but you have political fucking beliefs that really might run contrary to your character of who you are, that's more than likely because you haven't been exposed to the ideas that really would fucking fit more with who you are as a person. So when you talk to somebody who's usually,
because you can teach them that.
Yeah. Exactly, you know, and that's because we've been through the experiences, and had all these things to be able to communicate that, you know, and when you actually connect with somebody on a human level, I know you as a person, and I'm going to listen to you and get to know you. If you can do that first, that person is way more receptive to receive your ideas if they fucking believe that you truly care about and know who they are, because that's empathy. Like, I know, I truly understand you because you believe me when I'm getting to know you. You know I truly fucking care about who you are and not your fucking opinions. And when you can communicate that, they are so more receptive to open up to fucking new ideas, man. You know? Connect with people about who they are. Don't judge them.
That's the difference between talking to somebody and talking at somebody. because when you talk to somebody, it's a two-way conversation. If you're talking at somebody, at some point, either you or them are going to shut down because you're not receptive to the conversation. Another like quick philosophical thing that I talk to people about is, everybody wants to change the world, dude. And maybe you can, maybe you can't. Who knows? I don't know. But you can always change your sphere of influence. The people who sit around you, the people you talk to on a daily basis. And I'll use a great example. I work for the VA, and I drive veterans around all the time. So at any given time, I'm anywhere in New York State sitting with some crazy old dude telling stories. It's awesome. It's the best job in the world.
That's
But
so cool, dude.
every once in a while, you get into the vehicle, and I'm sitting down, and hey, where are you from? What branch are you in? When you're in the service, give them a little run around so that you let them know you're a vet too. So it kind of creates that connection, right? And whenever that connection actually happens, you can see this wall break down. And then the conversation starts up and we start bullshitting about whatever it is. And it can be anywhere from politics to, did you see the basketball game, whatever. But I remember I was driving this dude out to Buffalo one time, and it was this like 60-year-old black guy. And at first he didn't want to talk about anything. And then I saw he had a pen from a place that I was at a couple weeks prior. And I was like, oh, were you there? He's like, oh, yeah. I was there. It's like, oh, that's cool. I was there too. He's like, oh, cool. Conversation went dull again. Now this is a 2.5-hour drive from Syracuse. So like I was hoping to get some conversation out of the guy. And about halfway there, he looks over, and I was like really trying to have a conversation. He goes, I want to thank you for this conversation. I thought it was the shittiest conversation of all times. Like we really didn't talk. He's like, I want to thank you. I was like, for what? He's like, I have not talked to somebody this long in probably 6 months. My wife died a couple years ago. My kids are all, I don't even know where my kids are. And I live in this group home full of a bunch of retards that I can never spend. Yeah, dude. And I'm like, I thought this was the worst conversation ever, but fuck yeah, man. If you're happy about it, then guess what? I affected my sphere of influence. I affected him because that was the one conversation that he was hoping he was going to have. And it came out of nowhere for no reason. And all of a sudden this dude was like, thank you. I appreciate it. And after that, like whatever that was, it clicked in his head. He was so cool, dude. On the way back, this guy was talking to me about shit like blowing my mind. He was like my best friend. And I was like,
that's so cool.
Where the fuck were you the last half hour, dude? I've been trying to talk to a wall here.
That's one thing I never fucking grasped until very recently was the power of a conversation, the power of the spoken word, being able to communicate, man. Literally communication. I took a conversation and just talking to someone. I took it for granted for so long, man. But just being able to talk to someone and get to know and communicate, man, the significance that a conversation can have on somebody's fucking life is, you can't describe it.
You don't know where they've been, man. Like, how did I know his family was dead and gone? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know that. And for me, just to make conversation with him was the world to him.
Yeah.
You never, dude. And that's the thing is like, just reaching your hand out, helping people up, shaking their hand, like looking at them in the eyes when you're talking to them. That makes a world of difference, dude.
Yeah, you're right, dog. And I have to fucking be an asshole and run. Got to put the fucking kids
That's
to bed.
Cool, man.
Dog, I cannot tell you how much I've enjoyed this conversation, dude. Like, I cannot tell you. And I tell you what, though, man, like, before I get off, the past handful of months of my life have been a series of these, have been a series of conversations that are supposed to happen, of reconnecting with guys who are all fucking putting their lives on a certain fucking path of really trying to do something, create things and build things, you know what I mean? And it's happening. It's supposed to fucking happen. I completely believe in destiny and whatever the fuck it's going on, it's supposed to, you know what I mean? So.
Well, how about this, man? I'm always open. Every evening I'm free. If you want to give me a call, if you got questions, you want to have a conversation about a specific topic, I'm down, dude. I can talk your ear off all fucking day, man.
Yeah.
This is what I like doing. So the more exposure I can get and the more people I can talk to, I don't know if we can link this to more than one person. Can we do that?
Oh, yeah, dude. Like, if you watch any of the other ones, you can get up to like fucking 8 guys on here, I think.
All right, well, if you want to do like a panel conversation, I would love to do that too, man. Yeah. So we can get some people involved. And I know some crazy dudes that have some crazy thoughts too, man. If you want to put them in the mix, I got a network that's fun to listen to.
And the thing I care about, man, because I love all of that, and I'll have this all edited up, and all it is just me fucking making this into a file, is shared on on YouTube and Facebook and everything. But as far as people and want to do it, like, all I want to do is talk decently to people about whatever, man, from anybody who has any opinions, who wants to have this different conversation, you know what I mean? And that's all I'm fucking wanting to do, So
Dude, I had a blast today, man. It was
yeah,
really good, like seeing you as close to face as I can, man.
I know, man.
If you need me for if you need me for anything, you hit me up. All right,
For sure, brother. Again, I
all right, brother.
appreciate it. I love you, and I'll fucking talk to you later, my brother.
All right, later, bro.
Later, brother.